Hello again, this is Charlie Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the Homebuyers Hour on WCPT AM 820 with a fax manner. And
312-450-0665 and Cody at dreamtown.com.
Cool. And Patrick, if you don't mind, give us your contact info.
Man, Cody's way better than that Steve Davis character. That guy, he's a all right, I'm gonna stop. Hey, I'm Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer. I am the guy you hire to help your real estate purchase or your real estate sale go smoothly. Find me on social media at Loftus_law on Instagram, at Loftus Law on TikTok.
And remotely driving in his new fancy wrapped Tesla truck is Joey Mathews. Joey, if you don't mind, give us your contact info.
Yes, sir. Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com. You can find me across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd. If you want to speak, you could call or text me at 630-235-2405.
I still giggle every time I play that music and when we hear you. I don't know what it is. So I hear a lot of people talking on social media that the rates are going down and hurry, hurry, hurry. Is that true or baloney?
Get off Facebook, dude. Come on, man.
Facebook, that's the only social media communication that exists out there. What else can it be? Go boomers.
We had 2 days in the beginning of August that we had a baby refi boom, but outside of that, I mean, rates have been going down in earnest over the last few weeks. Nice. Everyone talking. I mean, the Fed's going to cut the interest rate, the federal funds rate in September. I mean, Jay Powell did everything but confirm that at the Jackson Hole meeting. The Fed's getaway at Jackson Hole with his press conference. It's going to happen. It's already priced into the market. So, I mean, unless we see any wild changes from the expectation, I mean, we've been pretty steady in the MBS and bond market.
And I hear a lot of people saying that the market's kind of slow. The real estate market's kind of slow. And, well, for me, I've seen that when the rates are dropping, I think that slows down home purchases. When they reverse and start going up, all of a sudden everybody's, I got to get the house now before the rates go up.
So I think it's a little bit more of a chicken and egg thing. You're describing the chicken coming before the egg. I think that the rates reflect what is going on in the larger economy. And if the rates are coming down, it means they're trying to stimulate the economy. It means people are feeling less confident about their personal finances. Likewise, when they are increasing rates, it means that the economy is going well. They're trying to put a little bit of a damper on it. And it means that, by and large, most of us probably are feeling pretty confident about our financial situation. And that's why you see that driving activity in the market. It is, believe it or not, it is normal for higher interest rates to mean more activity in the real estate market.
I like to hear that.
When rates are dropping, people are shopping, Charlie.
Rates are dropping, people are shopping.
Yeah.
Okay. I always like those sayings. It just makes me giggle a little bit when it comes in there.
Can I tell you something funny?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So one thing that I'm doing now is, and I'm getting all nerdy out about this stuff, and it's good to be able to decide what we're going to be talking about, is I'm putting solar panels on my house, Joey. And I want you to tell me.
God love you.
Really? Talk to me. Is that sarcasm or is that legit?
No, I mean, it depends on if they're going to be owned or leased when you go to,
Talk to me, Goose. Tell me the difference.
Yeah, Charlie, you're doing like an 80-year lease to own deal on your.
Those leases that they sell you from the bigger companies, when they give you the free solar panels, and nothing in life is free. They're 30-year leases. 30 years. That's a mortgage.
You're basically you're hanging an anchor on that piece of real estate when you structure it in that way. People need to be very careful with these things.
So this is what I ended up doing. I've been researching left and right as much as I can. I'm like 9 months to a year into researching and learning all about the different solar stuff. And we want to start including these in our inspection packages as well, because, they're part of homes. So people are going to want to know their condition and if they're working right. and there's ways that we could tell this with thermal imaging drones and special equipment that's going to measure how many watts, how many amps, DC, AC, and make sure that all the signage is correctly. And it's really amazing on all the different codes that have come up recently and how things have been changing a while. But I want to focus a little more on the financing things. Now, Neighborhood Loans is the VA loan nerd. That's who basically writes their loans. Do you guys offer financing if somebody wants to purchase solar panels? And if you might be muted, Joey. Well, or we might have lost Joey. All right, so we're going to get going on there. I know that there are finance companies out there. I don't know which ones do it. And a lot of that has been coming into a problem because the installers that have been putting these solar panels in there have been making some pretty serious mistakes on these things. And then it ends up where the installers end up taking the money. Some of them don't even install the panels at all, so they end up defaulting on the loans. And now all the finance companies are starting to jack up their rates and their fees. And that's the other thing is the upfront fees that you got to pay for getting these loans in here is pretty horrendous. And Patrick and Cody, I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you hear of like selling a house with solar panels on it? Are there any horror stories that happen from that, or?
Fortunately, I've not encountered anything in the wild, so to speak.
Okay.
But I've heard some things. There's definitely some scuttlebutt out there in the real estate lawyer world about some pretty serious pitfalls you can run into. And really where it boils down to is if you've got a long-term lease on basically what is amounts to a fixture attached to your property, that stays with the property, and you're going to have to either pay some money to pay, basically pay off whatever the ultimate cost is to remove the lien they've recorded on your property, or you're going to have to get the buyer to assume that lease. Good luck. Most buyers look at that and it just doesn't fit into the budget, or they go, I'm not paying for that. And so as a seller, if you don't have, gosh, I've heard some really, really eye-wateringly high numbers, like 30, 50, 60 grand.
I heard 60s and 90s.
Yeah. Basically these solar panels went from, hey, I'm going to get a little bit of money off of my utilities to, I just handed all the equity in my home over to this company that stuck some panels on my roof.
Yeah. I've heard stories. I've got a friend that lives in Arizona.
And it's more prominent out there than it is here.
Yeah, and they've heard through the grapevine, right? It's the friend of a friend of a friend that had a bunch of panels put on 10 years ago. The panels work, I guess, but when they went to go sell the property, they had to pay it off in full before they would transfer over title. I don't know. I think it's a cool concept. Like in your situation, if you're installing it yourself and you're going through the proper channels, that's great. I don't really know too much about it here in Illinois, but I'm open to learning. I know you've taught me some today on it, Charlie, and
Really?
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Hey, how about that?
Well, and 10-year-old panels are going to be 10-year-old panels,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm a buyer and you're saying, hey, take over my lease on these 10-year-old panels, I'm saying, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
If I was going to get involved with some solar panels, I would want the latest and greatest because, well, duh.
I would think of it kind of like an iPhone, right? Technology's changed in the last 10 years. It's probably, you've got 10-year-old panels. That's like having an iPhone 3 or whatever it would be.
Some
I don't
people
know.
like that home button. All right,
I
stop
love,
dissing on my home button.
Hey, I love the home button, Charlie. I'm not dissing you.
Listen,
all right?
Charlie's phone flips, all right?
That's okay now.
The Envy? I remember that one, yeah.
Consumer Cellular, he's got the jitterbug.
Oh,
It's got 3
the
numbers
big
in it,
numbers
yeah.
are so nice. It's unbelievable. You don't have to forget anybody.
You can only contact people in like the 10 people that his kids allow in the phone book.
That's it. And that's all. And they can only contact me.
Yeah.
And as you two are complaining about all these robo spam calls that happen to you,
You just got one.
just remember who that's not happening to.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All
Only
right.
those 10 people can reach me, and I kind of like it.
So wait, you're telling me that if I get one of those phones, I won't get 4 calls a day from Google saying that, oh, we have to.
We're here to verify your listing.
Oh my goodness gracious! And it's always like a city I've never heard of in a state I've never been to, and I'm just like, it's literally like 4 a day I'm getting at this point. It's really obnoxious.
Yeah. I always get the first 6 digits that are the same as mine, and I'm like,
Oh, that's always a bad sign.
Am I going to start crying now because I wanted to talk about solar panels and now you guys want to talk about robocalls?
No.
Well, yes, we do offer financing.
There it is. Joey's back. He's my favorite. So, Joey, talk to me about the financing on the solar panels. How is all that stuff work?
we don't actually do solar financing. What we do is we've actually paired with some solar companies where we can do home equity lines if it makes sense for a client. Just because there's so much equity in homes and because it allows you to technically own the panels rather than lease them, and then it doesn't become a title issue later. You have the ability to sell the solar panels with the property at time of closing. So it's been kind of a workaround is using the HELOC to pay for it. Plus, you're going to have a better terms in general than you will with solar financing. So that's kind of what we've been dealing with.
It's a tax write-off too, right? Just the interest and everything that.
And then it's also a tax write-off. Yes, sir.
Jerry.
And because you own them, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to this. Because you own them, you get to keep the 30% tax rebate that comes from the federal government and state government. Whereas if you lease them, then the people that install them, they get that money. You don't get it. All right, so that lowers their cost as well. I just love everything that comes with this, and then it ends up being a home equity loan, and that interest is cheaper than most.
Than it will be for solar financing. Yeah, I mean, that's why the companies that we've teamed up with love it because it's better for them, it's better for the consumer, and it's just a win for the people that are party to the transaction.
And what do you see those loans being written as?
It depends.
Much?
It depends. In terms of the amount, it's going to depend on the size of the roof and what they're planning on putting in. Are they going to do battery backups? I mean, it's
Batteries
totally dependent on
right
all
now.
those things. Yeah. So, but in terms of rates on HELOCs, it's generally going to range between 8 and 12, depending on credit, depending on LTV, all those things, loan to value ratios, total loan to value. So your total first loan, your total second loan compared to what the property is worth. So there's so many factors that go into it.
Now, I ended up paying cash for mine, but,
not everybody's got that retirement money, Charlie. Shoot.
Well, let me do a little boasting here, what that retirement money is. It's, I ended up, right now I'm about 4,000 all in, all right? And that gives me 6 kilowatts of power on my garage that comes in there. So I did buy the panels, not from a dealer, but they were all brand new. But that included the mounting hardware, the rails, the microinverters, the combination box, and everything else. And it also includes the permits to get it in there. So, and I'm going to be installing these things myself and use our inspectors to, help install these things.
And fly your kid in from Memphis unwittingly to make him do work on your property.
You know what? That's why we have
fun,
children.
Chris.
All right. That is exactly why we have children. He's out in Boston right now at the International Association of Firefighters conference for the union out there, and he's actually, and I guess Walls is going to be speaking there, so he's looking forward to seeing this guy. But yeah, they're going to be voting for the new union president out there, so
is that Burke? Oh my gosh, it's already done. Wow.
Yeah, that's all going on. It's he's really excited about it. He went to Fenway, and he's doing a lot of tourist things out there. So yeah, he's enjoying it. But that's where I'm going right now. This whole solar market thing, I'm going to do a little dissing here. I think because it's all brand new and so many people are so ignorant on it that now you got the bad humans that are taking advantage of other humans, and it really kind of pisses me off, a lot here. So, and even when it comes up to the markup, and you're seeing the batteries dropping, but right now, unless you lose power or you actually don't have a grid to connect to, you don't need batteries. Here in Illinois, we have, and it is changing starting January 1. So if you're going to do this, you're kind of got to get under the wire. But we got one-to-one net metering here. And what that means is that if I produce more electricity than I'm going to use today, I get to give it to the electric company, and they say, okay, we got it. give it back to you when you want it
So
at
what's
no
changing then?
charge.
What's changing then, Charlie?
I think the percentage is going down. So I
Okay.
think it's going to end up being an 80-20. So you give us 100%, we give you 80%. So they make a little bit of a profit for doing that. And part of that doesn't really bother me so much because it's still, there's still the lines, the transmissions, everything else that they got in there, and the whole connection. They're saving us money on the batteries because those are, almost like $1,000 a kilowatt, for storage. And you really can't be less than 10 kilowatts in a house if you got a couple of small air conditioners and you want them running in the middle of the night. So that gets to be, and then if you want to do vehicle to home charging or, backs up, all that stuff gets stupidly expensive. But if you go with the simple grid tie microinverter thing, like I said, permits, everything, net metering agreement, filling out all the paperwork, and I hired someone to draw the plans, engineering stamps, all the stuff that we needed, and you're still $4,000.
That's not bad.
No, but then you go to these leases, and they're charging basically $200 a month. All right, that comes out to $2,400 a year, and then you take that for 30 years. You're at $70,000.
What's appealing about it for 30 years? Like, aside from my mortgage, I don't believe anything's going to last 30 years. Like, that is an
They do
ungodly long
warranty
time.
the panels and microinverters for 25 years, and they do have a pretty good history.
Okay.
Well, the sales pitch goes something like this. If, let's say you're in Florida and you're paying $400 a month in the dead heat of the summer to cool your home, and someone walks up to your door, knocks on your door, and says, I'm a solar panel salesperson. I can get you into a set of solar panels. It'll knock your electric bill down to $100 as opposed to $400, which will more than pay for the 30-year lease. People really aren't doing the math and adding it all up and saying, well, actually, this is going to cost me like 70 grand. The way they sell it is it's saving you over the next 30 years, 300 times, whatever that number is, 360. And so it's really a numbers game, and it's really a game, because what can often happen is, especially if the company that knocks on your door isn't that scrupulous, is that you may not realize the kind of savings that they're selling you on, and now you're in a real bind, because okay, now you have a $350 electric bill as opposed to a $400 electric bill, but you also have a $200 a month solar panel lease, so you're net minus $150, where the whole intention from the get-go was that you're going to be saving money. So now it's costing you extra money, and it's leased, so you don't get the tax benefits like Charlie was describing, and the person is probably on a fixed income, and that was another reason why taking one of those regular expenses and reducing it was attractive. And that person, now they're at Circle K at doing the 6 to 11 shift because they need the extra money to cover the solar panel lease.
I heard one thing in there, and I'm digressing right now, but I'm thinking about the door-to-door salesman that used to exist, right? Like the knives or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but that was wow. Door-to-door salesman, that you had to have been skilled and/or man.
All you got to do is have thick shoes. You put your foot in the door. I saw all those cartoons.
Can I tell you a story about doing door-to-door sales? I'll try to be quick.
Please.
So in college, there was an ad. This was when newspapers were a thing, and I was looking for a job for the summer, so I get the newspaper, and there's a newspaper for like a truck driver is what it made it sound like. You go in and you drive things around. So we call them up, get called in, interviewed, blah, blah, blah. Turns out, and I did this job for like 2 weeks. It was one of the worst jobs ever. You were selling meat door to door. So you get a box of like different cuts of meat, like filet, New York strip, the works, right? And so you would go door to door and you'd knock on doors and say, you'd say, hey, I run that route, and we ended up with some extra boxes of meat, and I'm just trying to unload them for whatever our cost was. Can I show you what we got? Which was not true. We were just driving around neighborhoods knocking on doors. I did not sell that much meat, but they really made it seem like it was going to be a great time. You're going to sell all this meat to people, and they'd send you in these like conversion vans that would have freezers rigged up in the back, and man, one van smelled worse than the next. I remember the first time they let me out on the first like go around the route, which there's no route. My first stop was at Walmart to get just a giant can of Lysol to try to combat whatever the smell. It was horrific, this job. After about 2 weeks, I was just like, I'm done.
Did you
with
sell
this.
anything?
I think I sold 2 boxes of meat the whole time.
Whoa.
You did better
Yeah.
than me, and now I feel like the dog from Up
And then
right now.
you get back, you're all proud of yourself. You sold the meat because the meat costs you a certain amount, and then you sell it for however much over that you can get, which is not a lot different from the way that the solar panels are sold, by the way, oddly enough. And you get back, and then they go, well, actually, there's $30 for the, to have the vehicle for the day, and then there's, this, and then this. And, yeah, I'm walking out of there with like $10 from the box of meat I sold. I'm like, boy, I went all day to make $10. Driving around Central Illinois. What a job that was.
That's great. I needed that today.
Door-to-door sales.
I needed that.
Door-to-door meat salesman. I run that route.
I sold vacuums when I was in
Kirby?
college.
Did you?
No, Rainbow.
Oh.
You ever hear of those?
No.
No.
I'll give you the sales pitch.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So their biggest thing was they don't use filters, right? Because
Okay.
they show you how the dirt gets into the filters and it clogs up, and then you lose the airflow. And what really vacuums up the dirt is airflow, so air movement that comes in there. So they actually have a tank of water that was in there, and you would blow the air through the water, so the water would collect all the dirt and everything else and wouldn't slow down the airflow.
No.
It was genius, all right? These things are the greatest thing in the world, but they're $1,000, and I'm getting applause from Devin over here. They were like $1,000, and this is back in, well, and remember, I'm only 39.
Yeah.
This is back in 1982, 83 money. All right. So
$1,000
in 83 money is a lot of money. All right, where it comes into these
Yeah.
things. And yeah, no, I didn't sell one, and I was just like, I felt like I was a con man. I hated it.
Yeah, and let me guess. So part of the pitch would have been like, you knock on the door and someone answers you, go, hey, I got this amazing piece of technology. It's like the best vacuum. Tell you what, let me go. I'm gonna grab it out of the truck and I'm gonna vacuum your front your front area and show you how amazing it is. Before they can say anything, you're off back to the truck, grabbing the thing and you're vacuuming. Same thing, but with meat. So I'm in someone's like front like living room area, like putting all the cuts of meat out on the carpet so they can see all the meat they're getting for the price that I'm charging. And we're talking $600 worth of meat if you go to the store. It's not.
I get my Omaha steaks mailed to me in the little refrigerated things, and I'm actually pretty happy.
Those are
with
terrific.
Every time you do that, you're taking money out of a meat salesman's pocket. All right.
Yes, I am. I'm not much of a fan of the meat salesman, nor am I a fan of the solar panel salesman.
No, I'll
Look
tell you,
at Charlie bringing it right back.
Yeah,
I'll tell
right
you,
on
I'm gonna
You're gonna kick it
forget
back to the
this
meat?
law thing. I'm in my trunk. I'm gonna throw a freezer with some meat. I'm gonna throw some vacuums. I'm gonna throw some Bibles, and I'm gonna throw some solar panels in, and I'm just gonna sell it all, baby.
Unbelievable. I can't believe I'm
Oh, I
hearing
can
all
picture the
this.
logo now. Wow.
But no, Joey, I cannot tell you how happy that makes me that, you got financing for these things, and it's just a simple home equity loan. And those are relatively easy to get. I mean, it's not a whole jumping through a bunch of hoops to get a home equity.
Oh yeah, I got one that can fund, if it's an investment property, it'll fund next day, and then the other one fund in 5 days from application time.
I mean,
So-
to me, it just, and how they sell these solar panels to you is like, well, the electric company's going to keep raising your rates, and you have no control over how much more they're going to charge, and they're going to go up and up and up and up. And then we're going to be able to give you a fixed fee for 30 years. So, as the electric bill goes up, your bill doesn't, you're making even more money on these things that come across. But then I hear horror stories where people say that Yeah, they build in a 3% COLA, into the solar panel leases. I'm like,
Cost of
wait,
living
what?
adjustment.
Yeah, yeah.
And 3% of $200, I get it. It's $6.
Over 30
right.
years.
But it adds
man.
up. Yeah.
That's where the real kicker comes in. When I was, 3% was kind of in the fireman business. 3% was a normal. It was a normal thing where that we would get for raises. And I remember when I first
Negotiations. Yep,
started.
CBS.
Yeah, for negotiations. And when I first started, I think I started as a fireman making full time was 24 grand a year. And the one of the big bosses there, he goes, when you retire, you're going to be making over $100,000 a year. And I looked at him, and this is in 1988 money now. And I looked at him, I'm like, you're full of poop.
I can afford a lot of vacuums for that.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
what,
right?
100.
But even now, $100,000 really isn't that much money in today's money. I mean, it helps a lot of people. And forgive me if somebody doesn't make that much. I don't mean to be insulting
Money
in any
bags,
which way.
Bellefontaine over here.
But no, things are expensive. We have to own up to all that stuff, and it's going to keep going up. And
It's got that in his cushions.
if we don't keep up with things or look for permanent fixes, but spending $60,000 to save $200 a month is a very hard pill for me to swallow.
Yeah, you're really taking advantage of people's inability to see that holistically, and that's part of why financing is such a powerful sales tactic, because when you boil it down to what's going to cost you this much a month, you go, oh,
Right.
well, that's not that bad. I just bought a new computer and I'm looking at it, and it's worth it because it speeds up my ability to work and saves me time. But it was a lot easier to incur that expense knowing that I was going to pay $200 a month for the next year, as opposed to shelling out $2,400.
I've got a client, this is last year, maybe 2 years ago. His view on money and mine didn't really jive. And the reason I say that, he was roughly $80,000 to $100,000 in credit card debt. And when we were selling his property, we were allocating all the proceeds. We were going through the process of saying, okay, this is how you're going to pay this off. This is how we get you your new loan. Congrats. And he's like, well, I got to keep my appliances. Those are $400 a month. And I'm like, why do you keep saying it's $400 a month for this, and this? And this?
He's
Like,
renting them.
no. He put everything on his credit card. So he's like, this credit card has a $500 balance. This one has a $600 balance. And I'm like, you
Pay
got
'em off.
He's probably paying $2,000 a month
in
interest.
obligatory fees. So
so he's not even getting to the principle of that.
Right.
At 80 to 100 grand of credit card debt, you're probably working for the credit card company for whatever the first $2,000 is you make that month.
and he made, I say this, great money. He was making between 125, 175 as a single person, completely owned by a credit card debt. It's wild to me. So I get
That's
the
a
financing, which is what's kind of fearful of a lot of the solar things, is you're strapped to that for 30 years, kind of like I said before with a mortgage. But I get it. I get the
and
appeal.
There's a lot of stuff. Student loans.
Charlie, don't get
Mortgages
me
is one
started.
thing, because the mortgages, the property values have always gone up. I really can't see, any sort of super crash. And if it does crash like it did in 08, it's going to come back. It's just a time frame thing.
Well,
So-
time is everything.
But that stays fixed. If you get a fixed mortgage, that doesn't keep going
Right.
up on that one. Granted, your taxes will, but your interest rates, and Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, but your interest rates won't change. So, for me, that mortgage has value, and now that's more of an investment. You're borrowing somebody else's money, and you're making more money on your property. Am I
Well,
wrong on this?
Part of the issue with solar is the state of the industry is in a bit of a precarious state at the moment. What you basically have is a bunch of companies that grew like exponentially. They have like that startup model where it's like we're gonna grow, we're gonna get more investment, we're gonna grow, and it's hard to make that work with actual tangible goods that you're selling. It's more of a Silicon Valley. We're selling services. We're selling software. We're selling things that we can easily replicate. And so when you turn that over into direct-to-consumer sales, which how many mattress companies have gone out of business over the past however many years. They try to replicate the Silicon Valley venture capital growth model for all industries, and it doesn't work in a lot of industries. And so with solar, you get to the point where there's not enough new people to get into solar, so they have to figure out new and more innovative and more maybe dishonest ways to sell people on solar. And that's kind of where we're at, is at the low-hanging fruit of people who were more than happy to get involved with solar, and they did, and it made sense because of the situation. They didn't have to BS them about it. There's not that many people in that situation left. So
you mean the fad's gone, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
or?
just the if you knocked on 10 doors and 1 out of 10 doors said, yeah, I'll take your solar, you're doing great. Well, at a certain point, you've knocked out all the people that were really psyched on getting solar, and now it's maybe more like 1 in 25 or maybe 1 in 100. And as a salesperson, if you're working on commission, like most of the solar salespeople are, the door knockers, just like the meat salesmen, they make the delta between what it costs them and what they can sell you on it. And so in order for them to make their money, if they're not getting the 1 in 10 as opposed to now only 1 in 100 are buying, they're going to try to sell you at the highest amount possible. So that $80,000 solar system probably did only cost 6 or 12.
Right. Something like there was probably about 12 or 15.
So
is what they end up coming up with.
And so at this point in time, it's just there's nothing inherently wrong with solar. What's wrong is that you've got to be extremely careful. Do not buy the fairy tales that people are likely selling you, especially someone that knocks on your door and you didn't reach out to them directly.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And technology is going to keep improving on these things as well, all right?
Yeah.
I mean, those 10-year-old panels that you mentioned earlier, they were probably about 200-watt panels that were up on a roof. You needed a pretty big array, and a big roof in order to make that happen. And then you also have to have the ability to be able to remove these things, and because that roof is going to fail.
That's why I asked you the question, how old is your roof? And you said, I don't care, it's not going on my garage, right?
And it is, and it's going on my garage, and I'm not one to go ahead and pay the markup, all right? I mean, I understand people need to make a profit. I respect that. I'm willing to do it. But the good thing about being in my business as, a home inspector, one that goes ahead and researches pricing that's current, I kind of know what a new roof is going to cost with the labor, the profit, and the materials that are going in there, right? So I have those numbers. If somebody wants to try and charge, I'll go look somewhere else, right? Then there's also a bunch of people that need work, and I'm not afraid to, find subcontractors for a few days to get them to do some of that work that I don't want to do.
Right.
So, and as far as removing the panels, I mean, all you need is a 13-millimeter socket impact wrench, for crying out loud. It's not that hard, and a little bit of muscles that come in there.
This is America.
Oh, man, don't do this to me.
Is this America, man?
But here's the other thing also, Charlie, and I maybe this point has already been made, is that imagine how efficient these panels are going to be in 30 years. Financing something that is going to be obsolete in 5 years' time for 30 years, it's a bad choice.
Very
I'm sorry.
bad.
Do you own your EV? Let me ask you that. Do you?
What's that?
Because that's going to be obsolete in 3 to 5 years, right?
What is?
Your EV?
Oh, that's leased.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
What did you mumble,
3
Joey?
years they can have that back. Yeah.
So will you calm down?
Yeah. 3 years after I've, put all the, I can't say that. 3 years they get it back and I'll get another one.
All right, cool, good. Just wanted to discuss that because I know not everybody does that.
Yeah, I gotta keep up with the Joneses here on the Homebuyers Hour. I gotta get me a electric truck. So maybe
Joey, I don't
in
think
3 years I'll be getting
I'm
that
gonna
Rivian.
vote no for Patrick to come into the electric truck world.
Oh,
Are you gonna let him in?
when I pull up in my Rivian, you're gonna be like, "Oh, bro, that is so sweet."
God, copycat is all you're going to hear from me. You know. And why'd you go with such a cute little one?
Oh.
Why didn't you get a big man one like this Tesla Cybertruck or the Ford F-150 Lightning?
Yeah.
I like to keep my money in Illinois, and if I'm going to spend $100,000 on a truck, I'd like the workers of Bloomington Normal
There we go.
to be the ones who are reaping the benefit.
And
There
did
we
you
go.
know in Bloomington Normal that the Rivian place does not even have public chargers for people to
Did you
use
know
down
it just
there?
caught on fire too?
Yeah, I
No
saw
idea.
that.
Yeah,
I saw
All the
bunch.
Rivians? They all
No,
caught
there was
on
about
fire?
30 or 40 of them. All
All
can't
Rivians
get one.
spontaneously combusted over the weekend.
I think that was like one of the
Stock went
latest
to-
episodes of Star Trek Discovery. The whole universe ended up exploding.
What a nerd.
I am a nerd. I'm damn proud of it. All right?
Can I tell you something funny?
Please.
So, something I know about Cody that we haven't talked about is that I don't know if you still do sponsor a soccer team.
I do.
But the soccer team's name, I have to be careful how I
Yes.
say the name. The soccer team's name, because his last name is Shipp. All right. The name of the team, if I'm not
Still is.
mistaken, is Shipp Happens.
Nope, it's not. It's actually, and I'm going to enunciate very well. It is Holy Ship.
Oh, I like that. Little religious soccer teams, right?
Oh, nope, it's not religious.
Then why holy?
It's because when we win, we say Holy Ship because we don't win very often. And I'm sorry to everybody on the team that heard that. Please forgive me.
They're not listening.
Yeah,
It might be. You don't know that.
it might be.
I don't know anything.
I don't know what to
That's
say. I'm
true.
just going to sit here and go silent right now. How do you respond to Holy Ship?
Puppy.
Devin's just like, man, I used to think this show wasn't going to be a problem for me, and now he's got his head in his hand going, oh, God.
I know it gets kind of nutty sometimes. It's
I did that, though. I just want everyone to know.
no, it's all fun and stuff like that. But it goes back to, one of the most important investments that I think just about everybody on this planet has is the land and property that they own. All right? I think that's pretty legitimate. And everything that we could do to improve our property, I think, is important. And I get it that technology is going to keep increasing. All right? When I was driving my first Pinto, we were kind of laughing at these guys were making fun of me for my orange Pinto.
Racing stripe.
All
With
of
the
us,
black
our
racing
first
stripe.
cars are not the kind of car that would have, gotten you the prom queen, let's say.
Or
No,
worked.
I had high
Or
performance,
functioned.
or to school,
Or had all the gears they were supposed to.
or seatbelts. For crying out loud,
I had seatbelts. I don't know.
Did
about-
you?
yeah,
Not
yeah.
me.
Safety
we
first,
never.
Charlie.
They weren't a law when I first started driving.
No, when I was a kid, I mean, if my parents put us in the car today, the way that they put us in the car, literally like standing up in the back seat or
Cigarette in hand.
sitting. Oh, absolutely. Sitting on the middle console, like
Yeah.
that was the seat you wanted.
That was a good seat.
If
yeah.
you did that today, we'd be taken away. I'd have been in DCFS custody.
There's a lot of stuff that is a lot different, than what it was way back then. But where I'm going, I guess things have improved though. I remember I looked at a couple of studies of a brand new Chevy Malibu compared to a 1970 something, early 70s Chevy Malibu, and they took these cars and they rammed them into each other head on, as part of the test dummy things, and they give you the weight of both vehicles, and the newer cars were so much lighter than the old cars. I'm like, that old car is going to destroy this new car. It was literally the opposite.
Really?
Patrick's shaking his head no.
No, I
And
believe
that
it.
the engineering that they put and the technology that they put. Then you start adding on navigation in cars that we never had back then. Power windows, for crying out loud. A lot of cars were stick shifts. Everything's automatic that comes in here. Cruise control, adaptive cruise control.
Yeah.
Joe, your truck drives itself, for crying out loud, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Just sleep behind the wheel and
Texting and driving. Yeah.
Is it hard? Is it hard to
menace.
sleep behind the wheel when a guy in an
Yeah.
F-150 Lightning is honking his horn at you, telling you to move over?
No, the truck does that for me. I'm not worried about that.
If Joey,
And then it'll actually flick the F-150 guy off for me too. It's kind of nice.
if Joey had a nickel for every time someone calls him an a-hole each day, he'd be able to quit this.
I'd have so many nickels.
Joey, do people actually point at your car when you drive, or is it just, are we past that point? Because when I see one in here in Chicago every day, I go, wow, 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 wow. I can't believe somebody actually owns that.
Well,
It's
his is
beautiful.
wrapped and it
It's
looks
so
pretty cool.
beautiful,
It's
Charlie.
horrendous.
There's sarcasm in my voice.
It's
No,
horrendous.
this is actually beautiful. He's got it wrapped and it does look pretty boom boom.
I've seen it. I've seen
I
it.
get a lot of business from it, so I'm living. I paid for it in the first month I have it. I love it.
Comrade Loftus hates that.
Comrade.
Uh,
Unbelievable. I'm not hearing all these things. But you had said I still get people pointing out there's one of those lightning pickup trucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it still does happen.
It's funny that all
mine's
four of
old.
us have EVs. Man, what a bunch of nerds.
It's still
losers.
Losers, but
my brother-in-law was in from California, and he's we usually have a lot of verbal debates and stuff. They get kind of heated every now and then, and I love him to death. But he's hard right, I'm hard left, right?
you say he lives in
And
California?
He lives in California, right?
There's
Down into San Diego. Believe it or not, people are different in different states, whether you're red or blue.
Yeah, San Diego's real Republican. It's,
You know.
it's got a real strong military presence.
Exactly. And he's a great guy and stuff like that. And we agree on a lot of stuff when it
But-
comes to it. There is no but. He told me that 50%, more than 50% of the cars out there in California are electric. And I
believe
was
it.
like, really? You believe it?
I would believe
You
it.
know, what do you think the percentage is here in Illinois?
It's
5,
less.
maybe
but
10.
California is always on the cutting edge of those things because they're able to push more liberal agendas. But I remember watching The Price is Right when I was a kid, and I had no idea what it meant when they talked about the car they were giving away having California emissions. But I do believe it's meant that California had stricter standards on the emissions, and that particular vehicle could be, I don't know, sold and driven in California. But I don't think I think that's only continued in terms of the ambitions to be more eco-friendly.
They do have a lot more stricter codes, environmental rules than just about any other state in the union. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to have to comply, but I'm kind of thankful. I'm kind of happy
Thankful for what?
that they're making steps to improve the environment and such. Like, you cannot build a new home in California without solar panels and batteries installed in it.
Didn't know that.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, what
Isn't it?
Charlie's saying is he's happy that someone else is taking on the burden.
That's not what I'm saying.
Of doing the thing that we should really all be striving toward, which is trying to keep this planet. I mean, you were up on the roof yesterday, and you didn't last past 11 a.m. I mean, I don't know.
Man.
Well,
And it gets hot up there. It was like 90 to 100 degrees and stuff like that. So,
did you
Yeah.
know that it's also the same temperature for people who are younger? As well?
that's not true.
No.
Didn't
That
know
is
that.
definitely not true.
I mean, Joey's out there in Arizona. I mean, shoot. I don't know how hot it's got for you this summer, but when my wife and I were in Vegas, it got to like 116. That is not okay,
It's dry heat.
It doesn't bother
Charlie,
me,
there's
man.
no such thing.
bruh.
Your
When you're
shoes are
out-
still gonna melt to the pavement like anybody else's.
When the bottom of your flip flop is literally the rubber is coming off, and you can see your footprint like one of those Jesus on the beach posters. It's not okay.
Is that what they meant by rubber hitting the road?
I think so.
It's a rubber on your sandals?
Shouldn't we go around the
I
horn?
think so.
No, we're getting to the end of the show. We're just going to wait to the end now. Sorry. I missed that like about a half hour ago. Exactly. So, Cody,
Yes, sir.
is solar panels on a house, does that make it easier or harder for you to sell? And give me different reasons for different situations.
I'd say here in Illinois, it depends on the way that you've taken ownership and/or responsibility for those. In the event that you own them outright, it's going to make selling your house a lot easier, in my
Really?
opinion. I
Okay,
think so.
good.
Yeah. If you lease them, I really don't know. It depends on where you're at on that lease, I suppose, or if you have the equity to buy it out. I know that if I was purchasing a property and somebody had 22 years left on their lease, I would probably not be inclined to purchasing that.
I would not either. Yeah.
Personally. Yeah, it depends. I will say, Patrick and I have had this conversation about EV chargers in your home. I personally think that raises the value of your property, personally. Also, depending on where you're at. So,
I mean, I haven't tried to sell mine, but I
Soon.
will tell you this. It is so convenient. When I pull into my garage, I plug that thing in there, and the next morning I'm 100%, and I'm good for 250 miles.
yeah, I'm giving mine to my wife, and I'm getting a hybrid electric gas, and we had ours installed a couple months ago. It's a game changer. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's why you have to own a house and not a condo.
I own a condo.
Yeah,
we had
who's
it.
triggering
No.
Patrick?
No, I'm just.
Hey,
gonna
I
get-
own a condo, buddy, and I had mine installed. There's ways around
Oh,
it.
you're not cheap like Patrick?
Yeah, they try. They
I asked Charlie for a loan, actually.
They quoted me $7,000 to install one in my place, so that's
is
not
a lot of
happening.
money.
I would take that $7,000 and put it
where?
as a down payment toward a place where I could actually install a EV charger without getting rinsed. But all I really need is like a reliable extension cord. There's people who have installed EV chargers in the building, and I'm just gonna,
Did you ask them how much they paid?
no, but that doesn't matter because I'm just gonna steal their electricity
You
with
can't
the extension cord.
do
I'm
that.
gonna about midnight. I'll walk downstairs, take the extension cord, plug that sucker in.
The orange one too, right?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
18
absolutely.
gauge one?
Okay. Yeah.
So let me show you how to do this, all right? What you do is you cut off the ground plug. You
Yeah.
need 2 extension cords.
What?
Yeah, 2 extension cords. This is how you do this. You cut off the ground plug on the male receptacle on each one of those things. You cut off the wider slot one. That's the neutral one. You keep the shorter one. Those are going to be the hot one. You plug one into one circuit that's on one leg and the other one on the other circuit, and then you plug it into a 240 outlet, and now you got a level 2 charger for free.
I don't
And
know
you're
what
going
any
to
of
burn
that
the
is.
building down. Don't do this at home. I'm sorry. That was Charlie being a smart aleck to Patrick.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna get. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do none of that. I'm just gonna, the plug that came with the car. I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna, walk over to the, the plug on the wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's only 15 amps still. That
it'll take
doesn't-
it'll
yeah,
take 2 days to charge it,
2
but
days,
it's free.
If he's lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take him 60 feet. You will get caught somewhere during those 6 to 8 days that they see your cord plugged into them. You'll be face down on the back of a squad car somewhere.
Face down in the back of a squad car. Do you even know where we live? I mean,
Do you know who he is?
CPD doesn't respond to a call unless like there's actual blood being spilled, and even then, maybe.
That's why the burbs.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
in the burbs, guy.
So then he's got his neighbor policing his electricity usage up there instead.
What are
Well,
you talking about?
So what he doesn't know is his neighbor's been using the urinal in his garage.
I do not have a urinal in my garage. All right? Unbelievable.
Joey, he's BSing us, isn't he?
I know he's installing a urinal in his garage.
Is this a Midwest? It's the Midwest thing, right? Where everybody's got a
I think
fridge and a
it's
TV
a
in the
Wilmette
garage.
thing.
He's been
I think
talking
it's a
about.
Wilmette thing.
He's been talking about expanding it to a trough, but
Oh,
yeah.
I do not have a urinal in my garage.
Yeah.
Do you know he
It's
almost
under
got beat up
construction.
at Wrigley Field?
I did almost get beat up at
Did you?
Wrigley Field. Yeah.
why?
I made a joke about another man's.
Charlie.
Yeah, I did.
Package.
While we were in the bathroom. Yeah.
Mm.
I said, hey, that looks like a you know what, only smaller. And I thought it was funny. And stuff like that. He didn't see the humor in it that I saw. So,
It's a random stranger.
of course. What do you do with alcohol?
I've made comments and said, "Hey, it looks like he got that thing half off." And they sometimes people laugh and sometimes people say,
And sometimes you got to run away.
"Yeah, exactly."
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
usually
know.
smarter to pick somebody that's much smaller than you, but I'm not smart.
That doesn't happen in my case.
No, this was a big dude.
So after they're
You
done
know?
cutting all of the stuff that we can't say on the radio,
We
what
got
are they
4
gonna,
minutes.
What are they going to do with the other half hour of this show?
We're going to talk really slow. Just stretch everything out there. Devin's a magician when it comes to this stuff. So, yeah, I'm all happy about my solar panels.
you.
Right now, 6K power, and we're going to be about 4,000 into it. I ended up paying cash, no loans that comes in there. I think if I had to do an array that was big enough to power my house, where I would lose 90% of my bill because you still have to pay for the connection fee, and I would never get rid of that. And then having the net metering agreement with the electric company is another major bonus because that's free batteries, basically. All right.
You know what this is sounding like?
A salesman?
No. What it's sounding like is you are inching toward like prepper status where you're just going to go off grid and it's just going to be.
But remember, he's still in Wilmette. He can't go off grid entirely.
I mean, they're going to absolutely lose it when he puts that barbed wire fence up. I mean, that is not allowed in the code.
It is not. Section 690.14. No barbed wire.
No barbed wire
is written in there. You're absolutely right. The IRC, the International Residential Code of Barbed Wire Protection, in Wilmette.
But he will have like one of those invisible fences, but it's going to be like rigged up. So if you cross that line,
you could do that.
I'm sure you'll figure it
out. You
out.
can do anything.
You just got zapped by electric power. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Please leave $1 in the mailbox to pay for the electrical bill that I just had to do that to shock you. No, that's not going to happen. But it's I'm actually pretty happy with all these things, and I learned something new. I talked to one of the code cops and that I know out in California, and we had a nice long discussion about this. One of the things you have to have is a rapid shutdown system. So if the fire department comes over to, or the ComEd, somebody with an emergency, they need to turn your solar panels off, they have to be able to identify that and do it quick and easy, right? And when you turn the panels off, they have to be within 10 feet of the panels. All the power has to be shut off in each individual panel, right? So that's why you really can't put panels up without microinverters or optimizers. One of the two, because those are the only way to shut the power off at the panel that comes in there. I actually bought, one of those big Frankenstein pull-down emergency cutoff switches, and I was going to install that. And Doug, he goes, "Isn't your main disconnect outside?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's your emergency shutdown. Once you shut the grid off, and they got there, all you got to do is put the sticker on there." And I'm like, okay, guess who's returning his $500, Frankenstein switch here? He's getting rid of that.
I'm coming over to your house, and I'm going to go, that looks like an inverter, but micro.
Ha!
Got it.
Little solar humor.
Yeah.
I'm liking all this. I know, crushed it like there's no tomorrow.
6:55 a.m. on a Saturday in Chicago. A beautiful day, presumably.
But we are getting towards the end. So if you don't mind, I'd love to hear from you, Patrick. Can you give us your final words and what should people do to protect themselves if they're buying a house with solar panels?
Probably don't do it unless you are paying for it up front. I probably wouldn't finance it. It just doesn't seem like the best idea in general.
I like financing it through Joey, though. I think if you don't have $10,000 or $20,000, which might be your cost with labor, it's actually not a bad option.
If you're going to pay it off before they become obsolete, then yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
If you can afford it, on a monthly basis, but not upfront cash, or it just makes sense financially for you, sure. But just be careful out there. There are a lot of ways to go extremely wrong with solar. I'm pro environment. I'm pro trying to harness all of the clean energy we can. Yeah. But what I don't want people to do is to end up in a situation where, at worst, you have a home that you can't sell because no buyer wants to take over that lease. Or it's going to cost you all of your equity to cover the exorbitant costs of the solar array that you put up on your roof. So just be very careful out there.
And Joey, if you don't mind, give us your contact info.
Yes, sir. Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at the VALoanNerd.com across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd. If you want to, you can call or text me at 630-235-2405.
And last but not least, Cody, please.
Cody Shipp, Dreamtown Realty, 312-450-0665. Cody at dreamtown.com.
Sounds good. And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. And I want to thank Devin Tingle for fixing all of our mistakes. And thank you for listening.